Okay, let's jump right in. Think about your day. I mean, really think about it.
Yeah.
You probably wake up to a screen, work on screens, wind down with one. It makes you wonder, what is all this digital immersion doing to our heads, to our mental well-being?
That's exactly the question we're tackling. And for you listening, maybe you're super tech savvy, maybe not, it doesn't matter. We've gone through the source material, specifically mental health in the digital era, to pull out the really crucial stuff.
Yeah, we want to get past the usual headlines.
Right. We're aiming for those, those aha moments, trying to understand how our digital knives are really shaping us.
Exactly. So our mission here is to kind of shortcut that process for you. We want to extract the core insights, the maybe surprising links, the positives and negatives, so you get the picture without reading stacks of research. So where does this journey start?
Well, the source material makes it clear pretty quickly that this is a double-edged sword. There's this real duality to digital tech's impact.
Yeah.
Let's start with the upside, the connection and support side of things.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, think back just 10, 15 years. Finding mental health support, that could be tough.
Totally.
But the text points out how much that's changed. You've got therapy apps, meditation guides, crisis support lines, all right there on your phone. Access has exploded.
And it's not just formal support. The feeling of community online is huge. The source talks about all these online groups, right? For anxiety, depression, just general support. People finding others who get it.
Finding your tribe, basically, even if they're miles away.
Exactly. Can really reduce that feeling of isolation. And teletherapy, too. The source really emphasizes its role, especially during the pandemic. Remember that?
Oh, absolutely. It became a lifeline for so many. The text mentions a global jump in virtual consultations.
Huge jump. And the source suggests this isn't going away. Virtual mental health care is likely going to keep growing, helping bridge gaps where support is scarce or too expensive.
Okay, so that's a definite plus. Big plus, actually. Easier access, community. But then the text shifts gears. It dives into the downsides, the toll of being constantly plugged in.
Right. And this is where a lot of the research comes in. The source material points to quite a few studies linking heavy social media use with higher rates of anxiety, depression, loneliness, particularly for teens and young adults.
It seems to hit younger people harder.
The data suggests that, yeah.
Yeah.
And the text explains why. Think about platforms like Instagram or TikTok. They often show these perfect, curated lives. Yeah.
The highlight reel, yeah.
Exactly. And constantly seeing that can lead to what the source calls upward social comparison. Basically, feeling like your life doesn't measure up. It chips away in self-esteem.
Makes sense. You feel inadequate because you're comparing your everyday reality to someone else's filtered best moments.
Precisely. And then there's the design of the apps themselves. Those notifications, the likes, the comments, they give you a little dopamine hit.
Ah, the reward system.
Yes, the source actually draws a parallel between that and the brain pathways involved in, like gambling or other behavioral addictions. It keeps you scrolling, keeps you checking.
That's a pretty stark comparison. The idea that your phone is basically playing on your brain chemistry to keep you hooked. And the text mentions this affecting sleep too, right? And attention spans.
Definitely. Harder to focus, harder to switch off at night. And it's not just social media. The source also talks about Zoom fatigue, something many of us know well now.
Ugh, yes. That weird exhaustion after a day of video calls, even though you've just been sitting there.
Right. It feels backwards. But the text explains it's because our brains are working harder. We're trying to read digital cues, manage multiple windows, constantly be aware we're on camera.
It's a different kind of mental effort.
A more taxing one, often. And this burnout isn't just for remote workers. The source discusses students too. Online classes, homework on screens, plus the social media pressure cooker.
Wow, yeah. That sounds intense. Perfect storm, really.
It can be. The text mentions consequences like emotional exhaustion, finding it hard to concentrate, and just generally feeling less satisfied with life among students really deep in that digital world.
So it's this paradox then. The tools connecting us can also make us feel more alone, and the platforms for sharing can make us feel less than. Which brings us to the next point the text raises. Can this same tech be part of the solution?
Yeah, that's the interesting twist. The source does offer some hope here. It points out how technology is being used to tackle these problems. Think about AI chatbots for emotional support.
Like Wobot or Wysa.
Exactly. They offer an accessible first step, someone or something to talk to.
It's kind of wild having an AI therapist, but I see the potential.
And then you have the big mindfulness and CBT apps, Headspace, Calm, those sorts of things. CBT being cognitive behavioral therapy, focusing on changing negative thought patterns.
Right.
The text highlights how these apps make proven techniques available to almost anyone, anywhere. Big help for people in rural areas or those may be hesitant about traditional therapy.
So it's like making mental wellness tools more democratic.
In a way, yes. And the source also nods to efforts by the social media companies themselves. Instagram hiding likes, TikTok suggesting breaks.
Okay, but the text questions how effective those are, doesn't it?
It does raise that criticism.
Mhm.
Are these real changes or more like surface-level tweaks? Do they actually change the core design that's built to keep you hooked?
Because the main goal is still engagement, right? Keep people scrolling.
That's the argument. The fundamental business model often relies on the very mechanics that can cause problems. So those features are maybe a start, but maybe not the whole solution.
So given all this complex picture, how do we move forward? What does the source suggest for finding a healthier balance?
Well, the key thing the text points out is just growing awareness. People are talking about this more. We see things like digital literacy and emotional resilience being taught in schools now.
That's positive, equipping kids early.
And workplaces too, with wellness programs starting to address digital overload. Plus, there's just more openness about mental health generally, which helps fight the stigma.
And individuals are taking action too. The text mentioned Gen Z specifically.
Yeah, it highlights how younger people, maybe because they grew up immersed in this, are often quite proactive. Things like turning off notifications, deleting apps for a while, doing digital detoxes. They're consciously setting boundaries.
Taking back control, in a sense.
Exactly. And that leads to a core recommendation in the text. Intentional use. It's about choosing when and why you go online, not just reacting.
Being mindful about it, not just mindless scrolling.
Precisely. Setting limits on screen time, making real effort to prioritize face-to-face connections, knowing when you just need to unplug completely.
It sounds simple, but it takes effort.
It does.
Yeah.
But the text isn't saying abandon technology. That's not realistic for most of us. It's about finding a balance, a more purposeful relationship with it.
Okay, so if we boil down the message from mental health in the digital era, it seems to be that technology is here to stay. Retreat isn't really the option.
Right, it's woven into everything. So the real challenge, and the text poses this quite directly, is how do we design our digital lives, maybe even the tech itself, so it actually supports our well-being instead of undermining it?
That's a huge question. Really makes you think. So for you listening, maybe take a moment after this. Reflect on your own digital habits. What does feeling well actually mean to you in this connected age? Is it just about being online or something more? Definitely some food for thought there.